always been good at working in the shadows.
Welcome back to Resident Evil Requiem. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different, mostly because I forgot to record my voiceover, or any voiceover of any kind for this section of the game. The entire 42-minute video was completely silent apart from game audio. This was because I was updating parts of my setup and adjusting to some new software, which made me overlook the fact that the software was never running after the mic wasn't being picked up by the recording software. However, from here on out in the playthrough, I actually say very little. For reasons that are both the game and my own fault, everything pretty much just starts going wrong from here. During the end of Grace's last segment, I became increasingly irritated by the game, and this will be increasing tenfold for the rest of the series. For now, we will stay in the present, as Leon refreshes himself on the events of his own past. Arriving in Raccoon City seemed like the perfect twist to a solid game. However, it was more like the final nail in the coffin for me, as both Leon's involvement in the game as well as Raccoon City's were both spoiled or made obvious months prior to the game releasing. I don't know if this was ever intended to be a secret, but it really became the selling point of the game instead of Grace. But before I go on a tangent about this, as I have a lot to say about this game, I'm gonna stop myself and save it for the review video I do after the end of the series. Finding old newspapers and posters around the city is a good way to remind us that this wasn't always Zombietopia. This was in fact a bustling community. A fact that is never properly represented in any piece of Resident Evil media besides, of all things, the Paul W.S. Anderson film, Resident Evil Apocalypse. However, this immersion becomes lost as we progress forward, and the perpetually underutilized Sherry nostalgia baits us.
If not for Umbrella, it could have just been a normal city.
Yeah. Now it's nothing but ash and memories.
Before being thrown into the new content that is Letters from Random Very Dead Girl. Well, it's actually called Memories of Raccoon City, which might be a segment only available if you've purchased the deluxe edition content. I'm not sure if this is true or not, but if it is, that's a whole other can of worms for the review video.
I should do that like in between sentences so it's easier. Oh, it can? Hello. Oh no.
This is a scripted segment. This isn't part of the script.
A pussy pink.
Anyway. Balls. Generally, genitalia.
Generally genitalia. That sounds like a skincare brand.
Yeah. By the Umbrella Corporation.
Oh my god.
Revisit the old you with Generally Genitalia, the G product.
By Goop.
By Goop, yeah. Gwyneth Paltrow would work for Umbrella, to be honest. Without much distance traveled, we are stopped by the obligatory spider enemy in an RE game, which will set a precedent on how much the originality of this game is rather non-existent in the episodes to come. Although by now, I'm sure you know what happens in the game. I'm chased through a building, doing some damage to it, before being knocked into an arena via a scripted event. However, I wanted to test how scripted this was and reloaded to avoid damage I took. Guess what? It worked. Unfortunately, I missed some shotgun shells inside the hotel prior to the chase, so I reloaded the beginning of the entire Leon segment to retrieve them. I was gonna leave them until another scripted enemy encounter damaged me yet again. Retracing my journey, I avoided this damage too and entered the actual boss arena. And this boss is, it's not great. Not to say it was hard, it's just time consuming. And Leon is perpetually so damn slow. But at least here, he's an infected 49-year-old man with But at least here, he's an infected 49-year-old man with a fourth as many legs as his opponent. It was here I started realizing Leon never actually says anything useful in this game at all. Think about it. Leon is quite literally a tool for exposition and just a fountain of snark. And that may sound ironic, but that's just not who he really is. Chris is the generic action hero, not Leon. Leon's more than snark. He actually has a personality. Except for in this game. He also almost never speaks in the whole game. Seriously. Which is quite a shame, because it does represent how well Nick Apostolade's voice acting has come from the Resident Evil 2 remake. It is a very respectable change. The accident that made me script this voiceover might actually be a blessing in disguise, as now I have a head start on the review video. Most of the time I spent in this battle was gaining distance to shoot, rather than actual fighting. And after a single 10-ish minute attempt, the battle came to a kind of climactic close.
Oh, I miss our Raccoon City hospitality.
After navigating through an underground subway station, we reach a checkpoint. A literal one.
Okay, Sherry. I've hit the barricade. Looks like someone else was here first, and they were planning on busting their way in. No way around?
The Army Corps of Engineers erected it to seal the city. It goes on for miles.
Guess the only way in is through then.
Which reveals a much more interesting plot than anything this game actually has. The military blockade posted after the Raccoon City incident,
Sure, there's an
and
old
subsequently
BSAA
a
camp
military camp that ends up being owned by none
This is
other than the
trash.
BSAA. It has detailed instructions on how to blow up the barrier, a goal which was obviously never finished.
Looks like they
Why
left in
does a
hurry.
military force only
What were
have
the
one bomb for a
BSAA
metal
doing in
gate that
Raccoon
requires 3 tiny parts that are spread across a whole broken down city?
Interesting.
Go fuck yourself.
What
That's
is it?
why.
The computer's not locked. And they were also headed to the center of Raccoon City.
Interesting, too. That reminds me. I dug a little deeper in the Pentagon's database, and I noticed something's missing.
What's that?
There's no record of anyone ordering the missile strike on Raccoon City.
In the process of investigating, Gen Xer Leon S. Kennedy
not
didn't
bad,
remember
though.
to cover his webcam, despite always remembering to cover his body cam, and thus was being spied on by Victor Gideon,
Well, looks
Grace
like your campaign to make
Ashcroft,
the DSO
Zeno,
stand down really
and
didn't work, Zeno.
this guy flying the helicopter. I don't think we ever see this guy again, and I have no idea who he is. It honestly kind of looks like Ethan Winters' model, just reused for someone you'll never see again.
I'll leave this matter to you, then.
Anywho, all these characters are flying in a chopper above the city, and would have no problem getting to their destination beyond the checkpoint and completing the mission before Leon ever stepped foot into Raccoon City. Actually, wait a second. How did Leon get here first? Did he go by Porsche the whole way? If so, what was Gideon doing? Did he stop at McDonald's to get Grace a Happy Meal, then had to go back because they forgot Grace's toy, and then having to fly back again because Zeno liked Grace's toy better than the one he got and had to trade it out for another? Thankfully, their detour has given Leon enough time to run into 30-year-old zombie corpses that still function and take more hits to kill than bosses do in other games. To further prove that this is just padding runtime, we now have a bracelet that tracks our kills, something I'm sure the American police force has now too, which is in place of a money system, and instead of a merchant, something that could have been implemented into the game for lore expansion, we get a box. Just a box. With prime same-minute delivery for all our firearm needs. I will say, at this point, I was still having a little bit of fun with the game, because I was trying to remain open-minded, as exploring Raccoon City was still a decent concept to me if executed well. Well, the only thing being executed was my will to live by the end of the game. Hi, I'm just jumping into the middle of the video here after recording the initial voiceover to kind of dictate what's going on here. I just wanted to take a step back at this point because there were a lot of enemies and this is the first big encounter of the Raccoon City event. Yeah. It seems that I'm trying to... Wow, this is interesting. It seems that I was trying to step back to see if I could de-aggro some enemies and do some sneak kills since I was running low on ammo for the first time in the playthrough. It seems like they do de-aggro at some point, as do the enemies in most Resident Evil games, but they mostly just return to their area instead of de-aggroing fully. Thankfully, the 30-year-old zombies drop a lot of ammunition. Ugh. One thing I do really like about this game is the melee animations, because that's the one thing that they've consistently done right ever since 4, I believe. And I really wish there were more ways to kind of embrace just how good some of these melee animations are. Like that. That was a cool shit. That was cool shit. Well, parrying. Yeah, look at bro go. He's kicking ass, taking names. Good shit. Yeet. Fuck that guy up.
Broke my damn hatchet.
Thankfully, it's not long before
Sure,
we receive
bomb
our first
distributor.
part of the detonator,
2 more
and
parts and I can jerry-rig
unthankfully,
the
see
detonator
how
for that
far we're
gate.
going to have to
Great.
travel to obtain
Can
the
you
other
see any more
2.
from your position?
Go ahead, Leon. Say something snarky, since that's all you're good for.
Relays over there, huh? That should be a fun trip. Got the location for those parts. Going to collect them now.